Hey everyone, and welcome back to Digitally Twisted Media. Today, we're going to take a look at Sabaton's new song just released, Verdun. Now, a little bit about the history of Verdun before we get started. Now, Verdun took place during World War I. It was one of the longest battles in that war. It was fought between the German 5th Army and the French 2nd Army. And it went from February 21st of 1916 until December 18th of 1916, like one of the most long drawn out battles of World War I. Now, it all started when the Germans came up with a new plan under their General Falkenhayn, who decided that he wanted to cause mass casualties and deaths towards the French army. His ratio is he wanted 5 French deaths for every 2 German deaths. Now, I don't know about you, but when someone is charging me when I was in the military, I was like, hey, a lot of you are going to die, but a lot more of them are going to die. That's our plan. I would be like, and it wasn't overly well received, but it was approved. Now, it started off with the Germans like setting up about a million shells, and about 1,200 guns all along the front lines of the French army. And then they started launching all of them, like just started blowing them up. And the French were hit with 1 million shells from 1,200 plus guns for 9 hours straight. A lot of the French witnesses were talking about how it was just like basically hell on earth. And like some parts of it, they were getting hit with 40 shells for like one area per minute. And this went on for 9 hours. Afterwards, our French report from a infantryman was saying that it felt like there was 5 Frenchmen, 2 were buried alive, 2 were suffering from wounds, and 1 was basically just waiting to die after all this shelling was done. It was atrocious. It was awful. But the French survived, if they perceived. Then the Germans came, and they started attacking, and they started taking a large French fortification. One was Fort Dorma, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, which was the most expensive French fort ever constructed, and was specifically designed to hold off the French from advancing onto the town of Verdun. But the French had already vacated and left it with just about 50, I think it was like 50 older, elderly troops, not really like fighters, and they kind of hunkered down, so the Germans took it. Now, their overall plan to do this was to take the heights around Verdun, especially around where this Fort Dumas was located, and put in defensive positions, and then call in more artillery strikes down in Verdun. Why? Because Verdun was symbolically important to the French at that time. During the 1800s, they had won some conflicts there, and it was like a big crowning achievement for France. So the Germans' idea was to take the heights, force France to go retake Verdun, or at least defend Verdun, and Germany was just going to rain shells down. Basically just they called it the Mills Mill, or basically a death mill in Verdun. But it all didn't work out for the Germans. Now, let's take a look at this awesome song from Sabaton, and let's see how they do. Looks like a French soldier.
As the drum roll started on that day, like 100 miles away, a million shells were fired, and the green fields turned to gray. The bombardment lasted all day long, yet the forts were
Oh shit, flamethrowers.
Fields of execution turn to wasteland from the grass. Thou shalt go no further, it was said they shall not pass. The spirit of resistance and the madness of the war. So go ahead, face it and join the dead. Though you die for your life, never asking why.
Holy crap. That's awesome. 700,000 casualties. They shall not pass. So, make sure everything's done. Thankfully, this music video actually showed me some things I just remembered. Not only did the Germans bring in 1,200 like artillery pieces and drop 1 million shells in over like 9 hours, but they also brought up a large reserve of flamethrowers. And so after all the shelling was done, the German Fifth Army moved up and they started spraying all of the remaining French troops with flamethrowers. And as you can imagine, with like everything was chaos on the Second Army, the French's side. They had lost a lot of their commands. They lost communications because all the wires were cut. You just talk about massive casualties everywhere. And now here come the Germans full on attack, and they've got flamethrowers all over the place, completely decimating the French troops. And they actually showed that in the music video. And not only that, but the Germans also had, at the time, the largest air coverage. I believe it was about, I want to say 128, I could be wrong. 128 of their planes were sent above to keep any French aircraft from being able to report what was going on. It was just complete darkness for the French. It was just absolutely devastating. And it showed because the German Fifth Army was able to push so quickly around. Now, the problem was that a lot of the French, not the high command, but kind of like the French officers in the middle, were kind of saying that, hey, Verdun is like just a disaster waiting to happen. We're getting way too lax. As I mentioned earlier, Fort Dumas, one of the biggest French forts of all time, was left vacated when it was directly built to withstand this kind of assault from the German forces. And when the Germans finally captured it, they were shocked to find that there's only a few people inside and nobody fired a shot. It was a complete waste. A great lesson of like not become too complacent for those of you in the world still in the military or still like, I don't know, into aggressive business tactics, I guess, or just a great lesson for life, not to become complacent. But anyways, but this eventually did turn around. Now, General Falkenhayn was eventually replaced simply because in the eyes of the German people, like this was just a disaster because it didn't really go the way he wanted it to. Yes, they eventually captured the heights, but the French were able to put forward such a great defensive posture and defense in depth tactics that they were able to inflict heavy casualties upon the Germans as well. So the 5-to-2 death ratio didn't exactly work out and he was replaced. However, around the same time he was replaced, that famous slogan, "They shall not pass," that we saw in the video, was uttered or was told by General Nivelle of the French army. Now, originally he was a commander of the 3rd Corps that was helping to repel the German advance during the early 1916s, but he was eventually put in charge of the 2nd Army. Now, he at first had great victories because he was able to do what they called a creeping artillery attack. Instead of just like dumping tons of artillery all at once like the Germans did, he had artillery slowly just like shoot right in front of the advancing French forces and kind of like basically shock and awe against the German troops and knock them out. And the French were able to retake almost all of the land, almost all of it. that the Germans had taken during the early offensive. So by December 18th, 1916, the official Battle of Verdun was over. So anyways, that was an awesome video. I really got into it towards the end because I could really feel the passion, the fire, the power. It was really amazing. They had like people fighting in the background, both the Germans and the French. And you know what's funny is like you see some older people in that video, but it's like a lot of the troops in World War I were old men as well, and people in their middle ages. It wasn't all just young men. So I'm really glad they all got that in there. It was really passionate. It was really awesome. It was just metal all the way through. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for coming by, and we'll see you again next time.